When I handed my stepmother the ideal Mother's Day gift, I studied her expression as the weight of its meaning sank in. My father married Vanessa when I was 11. My mother had been gone for just over a year, taken by leukemia that spread like wildfire. One moment she was mentioning a persistent cough, and 79 days later I stood at her gravesite in a navy dress still bearing its store tags. Dad waited precisely 12 months before introducing Vanessa. She was a colleague from his wealth management firm, polished smile, auburn hair always perfectly in place, the type to wear stilettos to casual picnics. "She brings joy back into my life," Dad said softly but decisively. "I need you to make an effort, Sophie." So I did. I assisted Vanessa as she settled in, hauling boxes of luxury handbags to the closet where Mom's painting supplies once rested. I stayed quiet when she redecorated, swapping out family portraits for minimalist sculptures to modernize the space. I even forced a grin when she turned Mom's herb garden into a sleek outdoor lounge because homegrown produce was too rustic. For 3 years, I played the part of the dutiful stepdaughter. I attended her high-profile networking events in the outfits she picked out. I endured her friends, who gushed about how poised I was for 14. I buried my sorrow beneath flawless grades and practiced smiles. Dad didn't see that I'd stopped truly laughing, too caught up in Vanessa's social whirl and the new investors she secured, too absorbed by their weekend getaways and exclusive wine tastings. Meanwhile, I clung to Mom's scarf, tucked under my pillow until her scent faded. Vanessa made efforts in her own way. She gifted me lavish birthday presents, always items she'd choose for herself. She threw extravagant dinner parties, presenting me as our daughter to influential guests who forgot my name by dessert. She even set up a college savings account for me, ensuring everyone heard of her benevolence. But when I got my first period, I turned to online searches for guidance. When nightmares of Mom's death haunted me, it was our cat who curled up beside me. The turning point came in my sophomore year. I landed the starring role in the school play, the first spark of passion I'd felt since Mom's death. The opening night coincided with Vanessa's annual fundraising gala. "You'll have to miss the show, obviously," she said, eyes on her tablet. "The Morgans are bringing their daughter. She's at Stanford. Relationships, Sophie." Dad started to protest, then fell silent as Vanessa touched his wrist. "It's just a school production," he said eventually. "There'll be others." I retreated to my room and opened the wooden music box Mom left me. Inside were her engagement ring, a curl from my infant hair, and a diary I'd been too scared to read, dreading her final words. That night, through sobs, I read every page. It was mostly what I expected. Her dreams for my future, cherished moments, wisdom she couldn't share in person. But the final entry, written 10 days before her death, stood out. "If you're reading this, Sophie, you need to know about the safe deposit box. The key is taped inside the diary's cover. What's inside will shift everything. I'm so sorry." The key was tiny, brass, with the bank's logo engraved. The next morning, I skipped classes and went to Heritage Trust. The branch manager knew me. Mom's family had been clients for decades. "Your mother said you'd show up one day," he said, guiding me to the vault. The box held a flash drive, several folders, and a letter in Mom's handwriting. "My beloved Sophie." It started. "By now, Vanessa has likely woven herself fully into your lives. I've known about her for years." I read the letter 3 times, my hands unsteady. Mom had uncovered Dad's affair with Vanessa 8 months before her diagnosis. She'd hired a private detective who compiled everything. Hotel invoices, text exchanges, photos of them together while Mom was driving me to dance lessons. The detective's report was thorough, covering months. There were images of Dad and Vanessa at hotels in 4 cities, screenshots of messages that churned my stomach. "She's taking Sophie to her aunt's this weekend. Come by. Imagine when we can stop sneaking around." Sometimes I wish she'd just vanish. That last one was from Dad, sent 5 months before Mom's illness surfaced. I sifted through credit card statements showing dinners at upscale restaurants on nights Dad claimed to be at the office, receipts for gifts Mom never received, a rental contract for a condo downtown not listed in our family records. But there was more. The files revealed financial records showing Dad and Vanessa had been siphoning money from Mom's family trust, funds meant for me, into offshore accounts. They'd planned this for years, biding their time. Mom's family had founded one of the city's top financial firms over 3 generations. When she married Dad, he was a driven junior advisor. She'd brought him into the firm, mentored him, helped him climb to executive. The trust was her family's heritage, and I was its heir. I found detailed ledgers tracking millions funneled through dummy corporations, fake client portfolios, and manipulated deals. The money flowed through 10 countries before landing in numbered accounts. Dad's signature was on every key document. Vanessa's was on most. The worst part? Medical records hinting Mom's rapid decline might not have been natural. Odd test results. Questionable prescriptions. Private toxicology reports Mom had ordered when she grew wary. I started feeling off after our vow renewal dinner, she wrote. Fatigue at first, then worsening. The doctors couldn't pinpoint why. I noticed symptoms only after meals Thomas cooked for me. There were lab analyses of hair samples showing high levels of toxins consistent with chronic poisoning, tests on food from our kitchen, notes from meetings with 4 specialists who all remarked on her condition's strange progression. I can't confirm it, Mom wrote. By the time you read this, it won't matter for me. But I couldn't leave you defenseless. The final page outlined her counter-strategy. A hidden trust she'd created in my name. The house and company I thought Dad controlled were legally mine at 18. Mom had revised her will 10 days before her death, working with attorneys Dad didn't know existed. I've ensured what's yours stays yours, she wrote. The trustees will reach out on your 18th birthday. But if you find this sooner, contact them using the enclosed details. They're ready when you are. I stayed in the bank's private room for hours, processing it all. When I left, I was changed. The grief and disorientation that had shaped me for 3 years hardened into something sharper, more deliberate. I didn't confront Dad right away. I didn't flee or call the authorities. I did something bolder. I became the ideal daughter. For 2 years, I performed impeccably. I thrived academically, joined the activities Vanessa endorsed, attended every tedious corporate function. I wore the proper clothes, said the right things, and never let them glimpse what I knew. At night, I tracked their ongoing schemes. Each time Dad mentioned a tricky client or intricate financial deal at dinner, I researched the firms involved, tracing funds through their maze of shell entities. I built my own ledgers, expanding Mom's work. My bedroom became my war room. I hid a safe behind my desk, storing copies of everything. I recorded family dinners, business talks they thought I couldn't hear. I photographed papers Dad left on his desk, trusting his 16-year-old daughter wouldn't grasp their importance. 6 months after finding Mom's letter, I was ready to contact her trustees. The envelope held 3 contacts: a forensic auditor, a financial crime attorney, and a retired prosecutor who'd been Mom's father's confidant. I met them at the prosecutor's home on a Sunday, claiming I was at a study group. I'd shared the basics over the phone, but watching them review the physical evidence was different. The auditor sighed heavily at the scale of the fraud. The attorney muttered in disbelief. The prosecutor looked at me with sorrow and quiet fury. "Your mother was extraordinary," he said. "What's your plan, Sophie?" I'd weighed my options for months. I could expose everything now, sending Dad and Vanessa to jail. I could disappear until 18, claiming my inheritance later. I could confront them, forcing a raw showdown. Instead, I chose Mom's path. Calculated, exact justice. I want to learn it all, I told them. The business, finance, law, how to lead a firm. I want to be prepared to reclaim what's mine. The prosecutor nodded, unsurprised. "Your mother predicted you'd choose this. She left guidance for us if you did." For the next 18 months, I lived a dual existence. At home and school, I was the flawless daughter Vanessa could parade at events. But 3 nights a week, I attended tutoring or community service that were actually rigorous training with my covert team. The auditor taught me to dissect financial records, spot fraud, and navigate the firm's complex transactions. The attorney schooled me in corporate law, contracts, and the legal structures I'd use to take control. The prosecutor connected me with Mom's allies in finance, investment, and regulatory circles, people who revered her and were appalled by the betrayal of her legacy. Meanwhile, I worked with Mom's lawyers, preparing the trust, evidence, and strategy. I graduated high school at 16, a year early. Dad and Vanessa were elated. Their star pupil off to Princeton early with a full scholarship. They didn't know I'd also been studying finance and management online, mastering Dad's company and its hidden accounts. "We're so proud," Dad said at my quiet graduation party. "Just family and their select friends. No classmates, no one who truly knew me." "You've surpassed every expectation," Vanessa added, her hand on my shoulder for the hired photographer. "Princeton early admission. The board's already buzzing about your potential with the firm." I smiled and thanked them, knowing that in under 2 years, I'd control that board. The summer before college, Vanessa proposed legally adopting me. "You're my daughter in every way that counts," she said, brushing my cheek during lunch at her favorite upscale bistro. "Let's make it official before you leave." I scrutinized her expression, searching for sincerity. There was a tightness in her jaw, a quick glance at Dad. This wasn't love. It was about locking in her stake in the family business if anything happened to Dad. I hugged her, murmuring how thrilled I was. "We should celebrate," Dad said, gesturing for the bill. "A weekend in Nantucket? We could invite the Harrisons, their sons at Yale." "Sounds wonderful," I replied, thinking of the dossier I'd built on the Harrison's struggling biotech startup and the unexplained cash injection it received from one of Dad's shadow companies last year. That night, I called an urgent meeting with my trustees. We met in the prosecutor's oak-paneled study after I told Dad and Vanessa I was at a friend's to celebrate graduation. "They want me to sign adoption papers," I said. "Does this change our plan?" The attorney spread files across the table. "It could actually help us. Adoption requires financial transparency. We'll get a clearer view of their holdings, and it doesn't affect your mother's trust. That's untouchable." "How close are we?" I asked. The auditor adjusted his glasses. "We've traced 68% of the siphoned funds through 5 countries to identifiable accounts. It's enough for prosecution." "And the evidence about your mother's illness?" the prosecutor asked softly. This was the hardest part. The possibility that Dad hadn't just betrayed Mom, but poisoned her. Our medical experts couldn't confirm murder, but the patterns warranted investigation. We hold that back for now, I decided. One fight at a time. As I left, the prosecutor handed me a small, wrapped box. "Your mother left this to be given when you were ready to act." Inside was a vintage fountain pen that belonged to my grandfather. "She used this to sign her first major deal," he said. "She wanted you to have it when you were ready to reclaim your legacy." I carried that pen everywhere after that. A symbol, a vow. 2 weeks later, Mother's Day arrived. Vanessa always made it a spectacle. Lavish brunches, professional photos to showcase our bond for her social media. This year, she planned a garden soiree for 40 of their closest allies. The adoption announcement would be the highlight. I spent the prior week crafting my gift, working late in my room, assembling documents, organizing proof, designing the perfect reveal. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the most heartfelt gift I'd ever made for her. The morning of the event was bright and warm, ideal for Vanessa's meticulously planned gathering. Caterers arrived at dawn, followed by decorators, planners, and staff, transforming our backyard into a chic venue, erasing all traces of Mom's vibrant garden. I found Vanessa in her dressing room, surrounded by discarded dresses. "Which one?" she asked, holding up 2 nearly identical ivory gowns. "The Givenchy or the Prada?" "The Prada," I said, noting how she promptly set aside the Givenchy I'd chosen. "I have something for you," I said, handing her a beautifully wrapped box with a gold ribbon. "Oh, Sophie, you shouldn't have," she said, her surprise almost convincing. We both knew I'd never given her a Mother's Day gift before. I wanted to, for today's announcement. She placed the box aside. "I'll open it during the party. More memorable that way." "I'd prefer you open it now," I pressed. "It's personal." Something in my voice made her hesitate. She studied me, then reached for the box. Inside was a custom-bound book, the cover embossed with a daughter's love. "Oh, Sophie," she murmured, expecting a sentimental collection of memories. Her fingers shook slightly as she opened it. The first page held a photo of Mom, radiant before her illness. "What's this?" she asked, her voice taut. "Keep reading," I said softly. "It gets better." Page by page, the book unveiled Mom's discoveries. Hotel receipts, bank records, medical reports, each annotated in my precise handwriting. I watched her face shift from confusion to shock, then fury, then dread. By the section on the stolen trust funds, sweat glistened on her brow, smudging her foundation. "This is ridiculous," she whispered, but kept turning pages, unable to stop. The final section detailed the restructured trust, the legal actions already underway, and the meeting set for tomorrow with the FBI's Economic Crimes Unit. "Those offshore accounts you and Dad thought were hidden," I said casually, leaning against her vanity. "They're not as secure as you believed. Did you know 15 countries have tightened banking transparency in the last 4 years? Or that wire transfers leave digital footprints tied to your phone's GPS?" Her face paled. "Your father and I will find the terms I'm offering very generous," I concluded, still smiling as the doorbell chimed, signaling the first guests. "Far better than jail." She stood, knocking over her champagne flute. "You spiteful little—" "Careful," I whispered. "Your guests are watching, and I haven't decided whether to share Chapter 4 with them." She glanced at the book, opened to a page showing her text to Dad from the week Mom was in hospice, complaining about hospital visits clashing with their dinner plans. "What do you want?" she hissed, smoothing her dress with trembling hands. "You're going to host your party. You'll smile, laugh, and play the perfect hostess. Tomorrow at 9, you and Dad will meet me at Judge Carver's office to discuss terms for your freedom." Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape, finding none. "This is extortion." "No," I corrected. "This is accountability, with a hint of leniency, if you earn it." I moved toward the door. "You have 20 seconds to fix your makeup. Guests are waiting." The party dragged on for 3 grueling hours. Vanessa held it together with shaking hands and a smile that never touched her eyes. I played the devoted daughter flawlessly, toasting her role in my life, watching her wince at each veiled jab only we understood. "Sophie's been such a gift," Vanessa told Mrs. Carver, the prosecutor's wife. "I love her like she's my own." "And Vanessa's taught me so much," I added, holding her gaze, "about trust, about repercussions." Mrs. Carver glanced between us, sensing the tension but unable to pinpoint it. "You two are clearly perfect together." Dad texted that he was delayed from a tennis match. Better that way. His gift awaited in his study, an identical book with extra documents tailored to his role in the scheme. As the afternoon faded, guests left, praising Vanessa's elegant event and congratulating me on Princeton. I stood by her at the door, accepting embraces from women reeking of costly perfume and ambition, shaking hands with men who'd known my grandfather but struggled to recall my name. "Is Vanessa okay?" one of Dad's colleagues asked quietly. "She seems off. Just emotional about the adoption," I said. "Today's so special to her." After the final guest departed, Vanessa vanished upstairs. I found her 30 minutes later, frantically packing a bag. "Leaving?" I asked from the doorway. She spun around, clutching a handful of necklaces. "You can't prove any of this. It's all hearsay. The FBI disagrees. So does the SEC. But go ahead and run. They're expecting it." "There's an agent at the corner of our street. Has been for 4 days. This was a bluff. No authorities were involved yet. It was part of my leverage plan." But Vanessa didn't know that, and she slumped onto the bed, her half-packed bag open beside her. "What now?" "We wait for Dad, then we negotiate." Dad arrived an hour later, calling for Vanessa as he entered. I met him in the hall, his gift in hand. "Where's Vanessa? How was the party?" he asked, loosening his collar. "She's upstairs. You should open this first." I watched the same emotions play across his face as he flipped through the evidence. Unlike Vanessa, he went quiet, his legal training steadying him even in shock. When he looked up, his face was blank. "Where did you get this?" "Mom left it for me, with instructions." A flicker of pain crossed his face, quickly buried. "Sophie, whatever you think." "It's in triplicate, stored securely in multiple places," I cut in, including evidence about Mom's decline that suggests more than just financial betrayal. His face went gray at that. "You can't think I poisoned her." "I don't know. The evidence isn't conclusive, but it's enough for an investigation if I pursue it." He closed the book carefully, as if it might detonate. "What do you want?" "The same as I told your wife. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Judge Carver's office. We'll discuss how you avoid prison." That evening, after the guests left, I found Vanessa alone in the dark, in what used to be Mom's garden, surrounded by the sterile decor she'd chosen over Mom's roses. "Why now?" she asked, not looking at me. "Why wait so long?" I sat beside her, smoothing my skirt. Mom taught me to be patient, and I needed to understand it all first. "What do you want?" I'd rehearsed this moment for 2 years, expecting triumph, maybe even relief. Instead, facing the woman who'd helped destroy my mother, I felt empty. Dad transfers the company to me via the original trust. You both step down publicly but stay as consultants under my oversight. The stolen funds return to the trust. In exchange, I don't press charges. She gave a bitter laugh. "You're 16. You can't run a firm. I'm nearly 17, with Mom's trustees ready to guide me, and I've been preparing for this half my life." Dad's footsteps approached across the deck. Vanessa's grip tightened on the chair. He'll never agree. I stood, adjusting Mom's necklace. "He already has. Check your phone." While we spoke, Dad had found his copy of my Mother's Day gift. His text to Vanessa was brief. "She knows it all." Dad joined us on the deck, his face weary in the dim light. "You didn't have to do it like this," he said quietly. "You could have come to me." "Like Mom did?" I asked. "When she questioned your affair 4 years ago? Or the trust withdrawals? How did those talks go?" He had no response. The company isn't just numbers, he tried. It's connections, client loyalty. If you push us out, the fallout... "I've handled it," I cut in. "Mom's original team is ready to return. Most never trusted you anyway. They stayed for her memory." Vanessa glared at him. "You said they were loyal to you, that you'd locked in their support." "He lied," I told her. "Like he lied about the prenup you signed, with the cheating clause that leaves you nothing if you divorce." Her head whipped toward him. "What prenup?" "The one I have a copy of," I said, "along with proof of your ongoing affair with Mark Sullivan from compliance. Did you think those travel expenses wouldn't show up in the audits?" Her face drained of color. Dad looked confused, then enraged as realization hit. "You said that was done," he growled. "It is," she stammered, her eyes avoiding his. "Sophie's playing you." "No, that's your game," I said, standing. I prefer honesty. 9 tomorrow. Don't be late and don't try to flee. I have eyes on the house. I left them on the deck, their heated whispers trailing me inside. In my room, I called Judge Carver to confirm our meeting, then emailed the full dossier to my trustees with orders to release it to the authorities if I didn't check in by noon tomorrow. Sleep was elusive that night. I lay awake, hearing their muffled arguments, the occasional crash of something breaking, a door slamming. Around 2 a.m., I heard a car engine start and drive off. By morning, the house was still. I dressed carefully for the meeting. A tailored blazer Mom bought for my first debate tournament, her pearl studs, minimal makeup, professional, mature, older than my years. Downstairs, I found Dad alone at the kitchen counter, staring into a mug, still in yesterday's clothes. "Where's Vanessa?" I asked, though I suspected the answer. "Gone," he said dully. "Took her jewelry and car. Left her phone to avoid tracking. I'd planned for this possibility. That complicates things but doesn't alter them. She's not the primary owner anyway." He looked up, eyes bloodshot and sunken. "You look like her," he said suddenly. "Your mother, when she was fighting for something." The comparison stung and warmed me. "We need to go." The judge hates delays. The meeting was short but thorough. Dad, stripped of his usual bravado, signed every paper: power of attorney, transfer of voting shares, resignation letter. Judge Carver walked him through each step, his tone even, but his eyes icy. "You understand these terms depend on your full cooperation with the asset recovery team? Any attempt to hide funds or interfere will activate the criminal complaints we've drafted." Dad nodded mechanically. "And the company's statement will follow the script, citing family succession and honoring Elizabeth's legacy as the reasons for the change." Another nod. "Sign here and here. Initial these pages." When it was done, Judge Carver slid a final document across. "This bars you from contacting Sophie directly until she's 18, except through approved channels. All communication goes through my office or the trustees." Dad's head jerked up. "What? She's my daughter. You can't—" "Sign it," I said softly, "or I release the medical evidence." His hand trembled as he signed, using Mom's fountain pen I'd brought for this moment. His shoulders sagged, aging him instantly. "Can I at least explain?" he asked, voice barely audible. "I've read your explanations," I replied, "in your emails to Vanessa, in the memos justifying the transfers, in the board report last year, positioning me as a future figurehead with no real power. I understand enough." Judge Carver closed the meeting, informing Dad a car was waiting to take him to a hotel. He could return next week for personal items under supervision. As Dad stood to leave, he paused by my chair. "Your mother would be proud," he said, and I couldn't tell if it was praise or reproach. "I know," I replied simply. 2 months later, I sat at the head of the boardroom table in Dad's former office. The company transition was announced as a family succession, celebrated with press releases about the young CEO honoring her mother's vision. Dad stayed on as a figurehead, bound by strict contracts monitoring his every move. He kept the house, his social status, and avoided jail. In return, I reclaimed what was mine, plus his complete accountability to quarterly audits where I scrutinized his professional life. The trustees became my leadership team, guiding me as we stabilized the firm after years of Dad's schemes. I deferred Princeton for a year, focusing on hands-on business education at the company. Vanessa resurfaced in Tampa a month after fleeing, caught trying to access a flagged offshore account. The FBI held her for 2 days before Dad's attorneys secured her release in exchange for her cooperation. She returned to Connecticut under tight surveillance, living in a company condo and working as a low-level client coordinator. The prenup I'd referenced proved prescient. Dad filed for divorce, citing desertion and infidelity, leaving her with only what our agreement allowed. She fought it at first, threatening to expose the firm's fraud, until my attorneys reminded her she'd be the first prosecuted. It wasn't full justice for Mom, nothing could be, but it was the start of what she wanted for me. Control of my destiny, safeguarding her legacy, accountability for those who betrayed her. The search for proof about Mom's illness continued discreetly. I hired experts to retest hospital-preserved tissue samples, analyzed items from her vanity I'd kept untouched, interviewed her medical team. The findings remained frustratingly ambiguous. Suspicious patterns, no definitive proof. Dad insisted he was innocent of that crime, even in private talks with his lawyers where he admitted to everything else. The leukemia was real, he maintained. I never tampered with her meds or meals. I wanted her out of the picture, yes. I'm guilty of wishing her dead, but not of causing it. I didn't know if I believed him. Part of me wanted him to be guilty of it all, a villain I could destroy without hesitation. Another part clung to the hope that this one line remained uncrossed, preserving a sliver of the father I'd once adored. The company thrived under new leadership. We unraveled Dad's complex schemes, recovered most of the stolen funds, rebuilt client trust damaged by his shortcuts. I worked 18-hour days, often sleeping at the office. Home. The house no longer felt like one. I sold it 5 months after taking over, moving into a city apartment near the firm. Dad moved to a modest suburban home, stripped of his elite memberships and most of his social circle after the company's subtle but clear statement revealed his ousting. Last week, I visited Mom's grave for the first time since reading her letter. "I did what you wanted," I told her, placing daisies by her headstone. "The company's secure. Your legacy's safe. I wish you could see it." As I turned to leave, I saw a familiar figure watching from afar. Vanessa holding a small bouquet. Our eyes locked across the cemetery. She didn't approach, but gave a single nod before turning away. Some lessons take years to impart. Some gifts linger long after they're unwrapped. Every Mother's Day since, I send Vanessa the same thing. A single photo of Mom, laughing in her garden with a note. "Thinking of you today." She never replies, but I know she understands.